Welcome to the first episode in a Legendarium series about vampires through the ages. In part 1, Demons in the Night, we will talk about the roots of vampirism which spread through Near Eastern cultures. Darkness and death are at the center of many human fears and stories. From these bleak places, vampires emerged. They are said to roam the world at night, searching for people whose blood they feed upon to prolong an unnatural life. Vampires may be the best-known classic monsters of all time and have appeared in the folklore of many nations through the ages. Such creatures have been called vampire, ubor, vrikolakas, aswang, and nosferatu. This pervasive belief has sparked an obsession with the undead that has lasted for centuries and spread to literature where vampires evolved from shuffling corpses into charming aristocrats. Most people associate vampires with Count Dracula, the legendary villain of Bram Stoker's epic novel Dracula, published in 1897. However, the history of vampires began long before Stoker's birth. There are almost as many different versions of vampires as there are nations. Yet the main characteristic of the vampire is always that they drink human blood. Early people surely understood that blood flowing out took life from a person, so perhaps they believed that blood returning could revive the dead. For them, blood meant life and power. About 9,000 years ago, a group of Levantine people in modern-day Southwest Asia exhumed their dead and dismembered them. Could this bizarre funerary ritual be to make certain that the dead remain dead, unable to plague the living? We will not know for certain. Yet by the time of ancient Babylon, over 4,000 years ago, priests taught that the spirit survived the physical body. They created rituals and amulets to prevent displaced souls from harming those still living. These texts tell of night spirits that supposedly preyed upon sleeping humans. About the same time in the deserts around Babylon, people believed that demons named Lilith and Dim prowled the night in search of victims to drain of blood. The hero Gilgamesh supposedly put Lilith to flight with a sturdy sword and armor during his quests. Dim, who would later be known as Lamashtu, was believed by the Levantines to be a faithless and evil daughter of the Mesopotamian sky god Anu. And in ancient Egypt, a demonic winged being called Ba'a, whose name is based on the verb for drinking blood in the Egyptian language, is mentioned in a 3,800-year-old magico-medical papyrus text called Ramesseum No. 3. By the time ancient Egyptian religion took shape, belief in beings who consumed blood had become commonplace. Similar creatures are mentioned in the New Kingdom's funerary text Amaduat and the Book of the Dead, both of which date to 1500 BC. The Book of the Dead references the Lady of Raging, she who dances on blood, one of 72 judge gods who is propitiated through ceremony which brings a dead person into the afterlife. In another seminal Egyptian story, The Destruction of Mankind, humanity is pitted against the sun god Ra, who sends the goddess Hathor to wipe us out. The instant blood touches her lips, Hathor is transformed into the vicious Sekhmet, who slaughters so many that she wades in blood up to her knees. Time and retellings likely transformed the demon Lilith into none other than Adam's first wife, Lilith, a disobedient devil thought to wander the earth. In Hebrew, Lilith's name fittingly translates as night monster. An archdemoness feared by households throughout the Hebrew kingdoms, she would come to be seen as an enemy of the family home and its propagation. Women in labor, little children, and potent men all faced danger from this wrecker of homes. Lilith had the upper body of a woman and the lower body of a giant snake. Other monsters in Near Eastern myth had similar body structures, including human-like upper bodies on the legs of a wolf or taloned feet. In the Old Testament, Lilith is mentioned only once in the book of Isaiah, a compendium of Hebrew prophecy. Isaiah 34:14 speaks of a sword-wielding Yahweh seeking vengeance against a pagan kingdom called Edom. Professor Robert Alter, who retranslated the Bible from scratch, translated the Isaiah verse as such. And wild cats shall meet hyenas, and the satyr shall call to its mate. There Lilith shall rest, and find repose for herself. Alter believes that the authors of the Old Testament referred to Lilith as a desert demon, then blamed for seducing men in their sleep and causing night emissions. Some Old Testament scholars further described her as the first wife of Adam before Eve. According to some biblical scholars, Lilith became the serpent which tempted Eve in the Garden of Eden, and later became the mother of many monsters which plagued the children of Adam and Eve. Her demonic daughters include the Lilu and the Estries. The Lilu fed off the blood of infants, and the Estries tricked their way into victims' homes by shape-shifting, often taking the form of a young woman. If killed, an Estrie had to be buried with dirt in its mouth, else it would rise from the grave. A pagan demoness thus very likely found her way into the pages of the Bible, and her progeny would endure through the ages as vampires. That wraps things up for this episode of the Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.